In just a minute, but first I want to sort of set the ground rules here. Obviously, gentlemen, there is no podiums you're standing behind, and it's not a formal debate in the formal sense of the word, but each of you will have a chance to speak main issues in your campaign, and that's where Glenna and I would like to begin. Let's do it alphabetically. Carlos Curbelo, tell us in about 30 seconds, why are you running and why do you think you are the best candidate?
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Glenna, for this wonderful opportunity, and to my Republican colleagues who are here and remotely and abroad. You know, our country faces major challenges. We have an $18 trillion debt in this country. Social Security, Medicare are scheduled to go bankrupt, and a lot of people in my generation are starting to ask, what is going to be left for us in this country? Not to mention the fact that the world seems to be spinning out of control. So I have a record of reform on the school board. You all have covered it. We have shown that good, responsible, limited government can get things done for a community, and that's the type of attitude and message I want to take to Washington.
Yeah, there is a lot of collegiality on the Miami-Dade School Board with Republicans and independents, both, even though you run as nonpartisans.
We're going on alphabetical order.
Yeah.
I believe Ed McDougall.
Glenna, thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. Michael as well. I'm glad to be back in the studio. And for me, it's about the future generations. Our generation is important, but I think it's always important to make sure that this country is prepared for the new generations to come. I have children and grandchildren, and I have seen in this district what is going on and around the world. I grew up in an America that was a different country. We were respected around the world. We have lost our base in manufacturing to foreign countries. We're involved in conflicts that I don't believe we should be there. We need to pay more attention to Central and South America, and we need some honesty in politics. And the people I speak with feel disenfranchised from their government. I'm going to bring some honesty back to this district. I'm glad to be here. Glad to run.
All right, Mac, thank you very much. And Joe Martinez, good to see you. Good morning.
Good to see both of you. Thank you, and for our colleagues who are here as well. I'm running on this race because it was the same kind of when I first ran for commission in 2000. Something was wrong, and I felt I was able to do something. I wanted to be part of the solution as opposed to just people complaining and not doing anything about it. Washington is totally dysfunctional. The approval rating is down to a record. But what's interesting is people don't even like their representatives anymore, and that was something that caught me by surprise. And why is that? Because they're not getting the job done. And talking about jobs, our economy is on the forefront. Everybody door I knock, everybody we call, economy is the biggest thing. And right now this administration is trying to curtail it in such a way with so many regulations that they're not doing it. This year we're putting in $450 billion in interest payment alone that comes out of the budget. That's like if your credit card got there, you only paid the interest. You know what? We're not only borrowing, we're stealing from our children and our grandchildren. And as everybody else has, I have children, I have a granddaughter too. So we have to look out for them. Now, on top of that, you got immigration, you got healthcare, you got a lot of issues. But
we do,
that's
and thank you, and we will get to those. Lorenzo Palomares Starbuck, good to have you this morning.
Thank you.
Tell us why you're running.
I'm running for the very same reasons you mentioned at the opening statement. We're a nation in crisis. Our Constitution is being challenged every day of the week and twice on Sunday by the administration. I am the only constitutional attorney running in this race. I am trained, and I have the background, training, and experience to make the corrections that are necessary to protect our freedoms and our democracy in the world. We are the leading democracy in the world, and we are the laughing stock of the world. We cannot continue to be that, and we need to bring back the trust of the voters to District 26, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. We'd like to extend now this same opportunity. David Rivera, who is joining us live from remote, and I do want to make the point that we can hear you, David Rivera, you can hear us, but I just want everyone to know that our guests in the studio will not be able to hear what David Rivera has to say, so we may play a little honchoing on that account. But David Rivera, you had this seat, you lost this seat to Joe Garcia, you're running for it again. Why is that?
Well, the more I talk to voters, Glenna, to be honest with you, the more I realize the number one threat to our economy is the national debt, as so many of the candidates have discussed already. The number one issue in this campaign is jobs and the economy. And again, the threat to jobs and the economy in America is the almost $18 trillion national debt. I have experience in Tallahassee balancing budgets. When I was in Congress, never voted to increase the debt, voted against the Obama tax increase of 2012. I know how important it is to bring fiscal responsibility back to Washington. I've done it before. I did it in the State House. I did it in the U.S. House. And I've told the voters here, my commitment is to focus on jobs and the economy, and the number one threat, that national debt, has to be combated.
All right. David, hold on to your thought just a minute. We're going to stick with you. First, I want to let all of the other candidates know that the national debt, jobs, and the economy are the principal reasons that Mr. Rivera says that he is running. David, I have to ask you, the trial of Ana Sol Aliegro is going to begin this coming week in federal court. We believe that you will be a witness. Justin Lamar Sternad, whose failed campaign she ran, has implicated you in his candidacy. Were you part of his candidacy?
Michael, I don't think you're living in reality. Maybe that the other candidates can't hear me, but you certainly did hear me. The more I talk to voters, the more they tell me the number one issue in this campaign is jobs and the economy. And I'm going to focus like a laser beam, just as I did during my 8 years in the state legislature, balancing budgets in Tallahassee, just as I did during my 2 years in Congress, fighting against the failed economic policies of the Obama administration, fighting against the national debt, fighting against the tax increases of the Obama administration. The number one issue here, the only issue here, is jobs and the economy. And I'm not going to let the media or anyone else distract me from the attention the voters have asked me to give those issues. Again, if you get out of the air-conditioned studio and you come out here and talk to the voters want to hear about what we're going to do to improve the economy, to create jobs. And that's exactly where I'm going to focus my campaign.
David, and just real quickly, you and I have talked about this a lot, but it is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And so for those people watching, for a lot of people, not just for us, and we would just like to hear you say with finality what your, if any, involvement was with the Justin Sternad campaign that we now know was a sham.
Again, the more I speak to voters, the more they want to focus on jobs and the economy. You, Glenna, you, Michael, you guys have jobs. Maybe it's not important to you all, but it's important to a lot of voters out here that the candidates tell the voters exactly what they're going to do to end the failed economic policy of Barack Obama and Nancy Pelosi. What I'm going to do is exactly what I've done before. Fight to balance budgets, vote against increases to the national debt, vote against the Obama tax increases, jobs and the economy. We need to reverse those failed economic policies, and that's what I'm going to do.
All right. Hold on there. We're going to come now to our guest in the studio. What David Rivera is saying is that it's jobs and the economy. When he talks to voters, they don't care about the allegations that he has been involved in what I think, honestly, is called a scandal with people. Ed McDougall, you see Mr. Rivera there is wearing an old congressional shirt with a symbol of the House of Representatives. You think that's proper?
Well, I'm not going to judge whether it's proper or not. He was a member of the United States Congress. I'm not sure that it would be appropriate, but I think that's the choice that he has. I know it's not illegal, but I can't speak for what David. When I said earlier, I think it's important. I'm not going to speak for what David does. I just not what my mission is.
Well, let's talk about the economy, and let's get to some issues. And let's talk about the economy and jobs, and that is probably the number one priority nationally, although I saw a poll that locally the number one issue was lack of confidence in Congress.
But I have to tell you, I walked this district. I'm the only candidate that did knock on 14,000 doors, even though people have questioned its own computer. And I spoke with thousands of people across this district. I started a year and a half ago from Calle Ocho to Key West, and I sat on their porch and I asked them what they thought about their country and what they thought was wrong with it. And you're correct. They're worried about their children who are not going to be able to find a job when they get out of college. They're going to carry $150,000 student loan debt. They disapprove of Congress because of the fighting that goes on and the honesty and the integrity of this district, the problem that we're having.
Yeah. Ed, hold on just a minute. I want to get to Carlos Curvelo on this. You have worked the district hard, I know, talked to a lot of people. What are the people of the 26th district telling you? What matters to them?
What people are most frustrated about is the self-inflicted wounds to our economy. Take the 30-hour work week under Obamacare. That keeps low-income people suppressed. It encourages employers to limit employee hours. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of policies of that nature. We need to reform the tax system to close all the special interest loopholes and have a tax system that rewards hard work. It seems like every day in this country there's fewer incentive for families to get out their work and do better for themselves and for their children. And we also need to reform entitlements, Michael. Until we get our hands around entitlement reform, the economy is going to remain very fragile.
Paul Ryan, leader in the House, has got some very interesting ideas. Joe Martinez, hold your thought. I want to come back to you, and we want to talk with you about this, but let's take a break right now. We will be back in a minute with the candidates for Congress in the 26th district.